Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Learning Space. My name is Nicole Gugliucci from CosmoQuest. I am joined by our guest tonight, actually in-house in the room with me. This is Leanne Kniepkamp and Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
Hi everyone. So today we're going to be talking about Science Olympiad and what that is, if you're a teacher, how you get your students involved, some of the things you've experienced as a coach for Olympiad. And then we've also got, I actually prepared a demo of the
We have a demo this week.
I
Thank
know.
you, Nicole.
Yay,
Glad you could do it.
yay for the last minute. So one of my favorite things to talk about, as any of you who've watched any of our hangouts, is radio astronomy and the fact that it is looking at the universe with invisible light. So it's a type of light that our eyes can't see, and it lets us see things that are different processes happening in the universe. And there's a couple of different demos that I like to do with respect to this invisible light thing that I call it. You can, if you have the technology and the money, you can get an infrared thermal imaging camera. That's really fun to play with. You build a little Faraday cage and put it around your cell phone and see what it does, and maybe we'll do that on a future week. But there are also these really cool beads, these plastic beads that respond to ultraviolet light. Let me grab the bag here. So there's a couple different websites you can get them from. You just type in UV beads, and you'll get these UV sensitive beads from different science companies. So here's a bag of like 3,000 assorted beads. So these beads, they show up and they look light in color under normal visible light conditions. Now, if you have access to outside, which I don't in my basement office, the best thing to do, of course, is to put it in sunlight to see how it changes. But you can also use different UV lamps to actually change the color of these beads to make them react. So what's actually going on is a little chemical reaction in the plastic itself that makes the beads change color. And so what I have with me that you can't see because it's off screen, I have a UV lamp. It's a really short wavelength UV lamp. Probably not the cheapest or safest thing to be using. They use it for I think identifying fluorescent minerals. But you can buy UV flashlights in like the 365 nanometer range that will make these beads react. And what happens, let me show you the result. I've been holding it under the lamp. And this is what happens to the beads when they're held under UV light. Can you see that, Georgia?
Oh, yeah. That looks lovely.
And you notice half the beads don't seem to have reacted.
Nope.
What's
wrong with them?
What's wrong with them? So I like to do what is wrong with them. Nothing's wrong with the beads, but what you don't see.
Don't blame the beads. I said don't blame the beads. Okay.
Don't blame the beads.
What's
I've
going
applied
on?
a layer of sunscreen to this half of the bag. And so you can use these beads as ultraviolet light sensors. You can and then test the efficacy of different sunscreens. So what I've actually done here is crossed off the SPF. You see my face? Crossed off the SPF of the sunscreen, and what I do is I'll randomly mix these up and cover the label, or put them in unlabeled bottles, or have them coded so that I know what's in them. And you can demonstrate what a blinded experiment looks like with kids. And you give them these bottles with these codes on them and say, figure out, put them in order of strongest or least strong to strongest. And you actually get, from the several times I've done this, you actually get pretty good results. You get your I'll throw in hand lotion that has no SPF whatsoever, just to, make things interesting. And they'll actually move up the chain, and once you get to something like, in this case, 50, it did a really good job of covering up those beads. So those beads, like I said, they're pretty cheap to buy. They're good UV light sensors. And let me turn my UV light off before I give us all skin cancer. You can it's a great little activity to do with middle school or with elementary school kids before Mother's Day, because you can use these beads and make jewelry out of them, and then they make jewelry for Mother's Day. We did that totally serendipitously one year, and they loved it.
Cool.
And
Science jewelry.
Yeah, all the moms came to our observing night with these, like plastic beads on earrings and bracelets. And it was like, oh yeah, that's our fault. um, you can have them test different things like the some of your car windows. See which of the car windows, the windshield or the side windows, have UV coating on them.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Good
So
idea.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nice, nice. I've heard of teachers using those beads in a lot of ways like that to show how you can set up an experiment of many different types just with these beads. But I've never been able to try it myself. So thanks for grabbing those and showing that today because I always wanted to see how that looked.
Yeah. We have a comment from Lourdes. Hello. He says you can go to your nearest beauty salon and borrow the UV lamp that they use for collecting nails. That may work as well. So there's a specific wavelength range. Like I tried a black light first, and I think the wavelength of this is too long. It was taking quite a long time to change the beads, so you have to try it out before you actually use it. Sunlight is obviously just the best if you can go outside. Especially if you're doing a demo with sunscreen, because your kids will end up covered in sunscreen, and that's not such a bad thing to do outside. So yeah. Okay, so that's our demo of the week, UV beads, and I'll be sticking in some more invisible light demos in later weeks. Georgia, do you want to give us the Globe at Night reminder?
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, you guys, if you were watching, we had Connie Walker on. She runs the Globe at Night Citizen Science Project, and that's a great project to use with your students or family. And it takes place at certain times throughout the year, and it has started up again. March 3rd is the beginning of the next round of observing times for Globe at Night. So if you want to get out there and observe your night sky, see how dark or light it is at night, this is the time to do it. It's citizen science, so people are actually studying the effect of all the kinds of lights that we humans inflict on the environment. People are studying this, and your observations, your data can help them with their studies. So it's a great citizen science project, and it has begun again. So when is the ending time, Nicole? Sorry.
Oh, it's March 3rd through March, so it's already started up to March 12th.
March 12th. And then another round will start again the 31st of March. But you can get out there right now and participate in Globe at Night.
Yeah, go to globeatnight.org.
Yes, I'm going to say lots of good resources on their website for teachers and parents, anyone who's interested. So go there and get out and see how dark your sky is.
It's just counting stars.
It is. It's looking for Orion,
yes,
which is a pretty easy one to find. So it's good. Everybody can do it.
Cool. All right, so let's get on to the main topic. I'm here with Leanne Kniepkamp. Hi, thank you for joining us.
Hi, no problem.
And you are a coach for Science Olympiad teams. So can you tell us a little bit, what is Science Olympiad to start off?
Okay, Science Olympiad is nationwide, but only some states are involved in it. It's basically a series of events that students participate in. There are 23 events, and only 15 students can compete on a given team. And so those 15 students have to pair up in such a way that they can cover all 23 events. So they have to be a master in more than one thing.
Okay.
And those events are everything from paper and pencil tests to pre-builds to doing an experiment on the fly. It's all kinds of things.
And they cover all scientific.
All sciences. Everything from biology to chemistry to physics to astronomy, everything.
What age range students do you coach?
I coach high school, but it starts as early as middle school. So there's a middle school division, Division B, and then there's also high school Division C.
There's no Division A.
No Division A.
Hey,
yeah, that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, well, okay.
I wonder if they originally planned to do it younger in
elementary, and it was too much. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe too much.
Yeah. Excellent. How long have you been doing this, Leanne?
I actually used to work here in the STEM Center when it was
possible.
I used to help run it on the back end, and then I worked at Lebanon High School first. I started that team there, and then I moved to Belleville West, started that team there, and now I'm at Belleville East, and we just started that team there.
Oh my gosh.
So the 10 years that I've been coaching, and then another 2 that I worked with Dawn. So almost from the beginning of the organization.
Awesome.
Cool. Very cool. What got you? So was it just working here that got you started?
Working here got me
working
started.
with Dawn.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. How? What is it like starting a team in a school? What is that experience like? What do you have to go through?
It's kind of like pulling teeth a little bit.
Which you learned here, I'm sure.
Right. Starting out, because I've started a couple different times, it always starts with just a few kids who really enjoy science.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll have a handful of kids who tell you, you know, I really was doing this weekend. I made a potato gun, or I made a, you know, ammonia bomb. And you're like, well, what? And those are the kids you kind of pull in and say, hey, I've got this thing we can do. It's safe. And it's got rules, and you can compete with other kids and see if you're maybe smarter than your neighbors. And that tends to pull in the few kids who are tinkering in their garage, maybe dangerously. And then they tend to pull in their friends. And I've also learned, and this is totally a school thing, if you can get a cute girl or two, then your team expands exponentially.
Really?
Yeah, all you need is like one or two cute girls, and then
All right.
Ladies in science.
Yeah. So you're focusing this creative energy of some of your students regarding science, focusing it in a more productive and hopefully safer way.
Sure, that's how you start. And then in general, my goal is just doing science outside the classroom, because you tend to be restricted into what you can do in the classroom, A, for time, B, for curriculum, and C, you just don't have the resources to do some of these things with the 150 kids you're going through. So if you have those kids who actually really enjoy science and want to be there, this is a nice opportunity for them to do something they couldn't get in the classroom. It's fun for those kinds of kids.
Yeah. Now, do you have a science club and has this Olympiad ever grown out of a club that was already in existence, or has that not been your experience?
That's not been my experience. I know at both Lebanon and at Belleville West, that's all they have. But at East, they have a very strong biological sciences department, and so we've kind of merged as far as the biology events go. So we're able to talk to each other, because those kids are already really good at things like forestry and rocks and minerals. They already study that stuff. So we've been able to pull from clubs, but it's difficult to make new clubs.
Okay. And then, so what's the time commitment like for a teacher who is interested in starting, or maybe there's already one going, but they want to jump in and be a coach and run it at the school?
My first suggestion would be to go to the Coaches Clinic, which is offered just outside of Chicago every year around Halloween time, usually the weekend before Halloween.
Oh, okay.
And they give you, it's like a breakout session, workshop session, and you go into different events, and it's easiest to partner with another coach and try to cover as many events as you can. But it's typically the people who have been writing the event rules at nationals, and they can give you an overview of what they were anticipating finding or what they were expecting the kids to do. Because sometimes you give the kids the rules, you literally get like a manual that looks like this, and then you open it up and it's just words. There's no pictures or anything. It's just words.
Oh, that's what I saw.
Yes, does it look familiar? Yeah.
And so sometimes you get this and it's very abstract.
Woo! I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Words. There's a little circuit diagram. Mostly words.
So sometimes the kids read these words and interpret it very differently than even the people writing the event anticipated. So it's nice to go to the Coaches Clinic and see what they mean by some of these words. And they usually have demonstrations there or samples there. And
where's the Coaches Clinic? Is that something
that's
that's
Great Lakes, which is right outside of Chicago.
Okay.
And it happens right around Halloween time. And that's the timing is weird, because that happens right around Halloween, and then you have enough time to sort of get your team together. And then, for example, SIU's regionals, you get your list of events in January. So you're kind of hoping that you didn't overbook or overschedule until January. And then in January, you can kind of figure out who's doing what and specialize a little more.
Right.
Okay.
Do they all happen around the same time across different states? Do you know?
No, they don't.
Okay.
So that's advantageous for us here in Illinois, because North Carolina does their competition first, and many times students record their part of the competition or their progress on YouTube. So our kids will then look on YouTube to see what their elastic launch glider looked like. And that's
interesting. Okay.
From them.
Okay.
So we're at an advantage, I think.
Later, we just had ours 2 weeks ago.
February 16th.
3 weeks ago. I've lost track. I was here.
It's been 3 weeks.
It's been 3 weeks since we had ours in Illinois. So yeah. Do you want to show some? So you go to the coaches camp, and you get some materials. Do you want to talk about some of the materials you got?
So this is what I got from astronomy. This is like flashcards.
Yeah. So here are the astronomy flashcards.
Now, is this for the middle school or the high school, or for both?
Yes, both.
This is,
Okay.
yeah.
They just like
Okay.
when you went to the astronomy one, they're very much like, okay, astronomy is hard. You just have to know everything.
I know this is from the high school one because I know Pamela wrote that version for us here. So the variable star stuff. But then there's just a lot of pretty pictures and oftentimes students have to identify different
So
things.
then they give you sample questions like this, and they tell you what they're expecting to find.
Yeah, this is cool. So this is a sample question. So it's got those flashcards. So y'all can play at home.
Really, what's the question?
The
Yes.
question is to put these following images in a sequence that result in a Type 1a supernova. So this is stellar evolution. This is this high school or middle school? I feel like some of this was on the middle school.
And
yeah,
it probably was.
this because this is covered by the middle school. I did not know this in middle school. These kids are totally ahead of where I was. But yes, you have to be able to identify kind of what's going on in these images. What kind of, is this a star? Is this a nebula? Is it star forming? Is it supernova remnant? And go through the steps of formation and be able to put it in that in the right order.
So is that a recommended question for someone who's creating the test to use, Leanne, or is the person that creates the test, do they have really latitude to do almost whatever
they can do whatever they want.
So they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, I've gone with teams to state before, and many times what you find at regionals is completely different than what you find at state. They both fit within the coach's manual, but they're very, very different. The expectations tend to be very different. It seems to me, and I've never written a test, it seems to me that event supervisor is kind of like, okay, here's the rules, make a test. And then they're expected to just generate a test.
That's actually what happened.
we can verify that.
So I wrote the middle school test for the one in Illinois here 3 weeks ago, and it was kind of like, here's the manual, go to town, and I was like, ah. So the last time I created a test, it was qualifying exam questions for grad students, so I really had to scale myself back.
Woo-hoo. Wow.
But yeah, we do keep copy. I know we keep copies here of the previous year's test, so I was able to try and make it consistent.
And does it have to be a paper and pencil test? Could it have been, could you do something more creative or more hands-on if it fits somehow?
Oh, yeah.
Or is that, so really you could have it be a different format?
Well, there's there are a lot of different, maybe you can talk about, because I'm only familiar with astronomy, but some of the other sciences.
Oh yeah, well even for astronomy, you could have put these on tables, and passed them, and had them just identify them from table to table, or put them in order and had the kids explain what happened. So you could have flipped the question, and given them the answer, make them come up with a question. But there's lots of different events. For example, just did all these, I should know. They had a robotic arm, so they had to build an arm that could move something from one place to another, so it had to be precise and gentle. It couldn't just slam stuff. They had to build a boom lever, so like a cantilever, but it comes out to the side and it doesn't move, and it had to support the most weight, so efficiency. They had to build an elastic launch glider, so a glider made out of, most of them made out of balsa wood, that they used a rubber band to launch.
How long do they have to complete these tasks?
So the event itself?
Yeah.
Usually the events run 55 minutes. That gives them 5 minutes to get from one event to another. They don't have to take that whole amount of time. For example, the build events, many times they just take a couple minutes. But some of those build events also have a test-taking portion.
Right.
So for example, there was one that was called thermo. So there's thermodynamics. And they had to build a box that would insulate water the best that they could make it. And then they had to predict how much temperature loss would occur over some course of time. So that was part of it, building this box that was very efficient. And then they had to take a paper pencil test on the thermodynamics involved. So Q equals MC delta T, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a combination and they get double hit. So they can't build or just be smart. They have to do both.
Yeah. So the event, and I ran an event this year. It was lots of fun. It's one I've done a couple years in a row now. I did the helicopter one, so I don't know if you had a group. Because I think that was middle school this year. That's right. But the previous years they had done high school as well, I think. But so they have to come with a helicopter, a little model that they build, and there's parameters for that. And they also have to come with a little log sheet to show that they have tested and modified the parameters of their helicopter, trying to get the longest flight or the highest flight. And they have choices of what kind of parameters they can test. So it's kind of it's a nice engineering activity as well. So in that case, a lot of the preparation and activity happened before they arrive to the competition itself. And then, at the competition, what's involved is they just have to do, they have a test flight. And we time their flight for the helicopter, and they get 2 tries, and it's the longest time in the air, and that's it. But they have to come showing that they've done all this work beforehand to try to get, the best helicopter they can get. So that's kind of a neat event, and that's a lot of fun. And some of them are really amazing. They've gotten better every year with the helicopters, so that's a lot of fun. And I also know there's a lot of videos on the web. You mentioned other teams putting their videos on YouTube, but I think there's just some nice resources, and it could be from other teams too, but for teams who are building helicopters in this case or something else, just to get some ideas or some how-tos on what to do for their particular competition, their particular event. So I don't know if that's sort of across the board, if there's more of that on YouTube now, but there are a lot of really cool helicopter videos out there. I know that.
I just wanted to interject, as I should have said in the beginning of the show. If you want to comment or ask questions, we have a couple of different ways that you can do that. Some of you are using the event page for comments. We're watching that. If you comment on the YouTube page, we'll see that as well. If you comment, if you're not on YouTube or Google+, you can use Twitter and the hashtag #LearningSpace, and we'll see that too. So feel free to ask questions. I posted a link in the on the event page for the Science Olympiad. I guess it's the national website. It's soinc.org, so that's where you can go to get more information about Science Olympiad. So yeah, keep questions and comments coming. So Leanne, in your experience, what kind of benefits do you think the students are getting out of it? What's their reaction to participating in Science Olympiad?
I think there's lots of things, and I hope I can remember half of them. One is just being able to think outside of the classroom. Many times, especially right now, we're so motivated on testing and testing and testing. These guys are able to think and do anything they want. There aren't any parameters. They can just discover, and there's so much value in that alone, for one. For two, I think many times students who hadn't really considered science as a career now see that there's something you can do with it. Like, they kind of knew they were good at science, but they thought it was all like numbers and words, and now all of a sudden they're doing stuff. I think that's very beneficial. I also think it's beneficial to see what other schools are doing. So you come and you compete with other people who also have these sciencey kinds of kids, who are also cheerleaders or football players, or all different dynamics of students coming together from just different communities, and they can see that it's kind of cool to be smart. I think that's incredibly beneficial for high school kids, and then there's just the experience of being here on a college campus. Our regional is here at SIUE, and that's kind of cool because they have run of the campus, and they get to eat in the Morris University Center and bowling alley. They get really excited.
That's exciting.
And Chick-fil-A, they get excited about that stuff. But then if they make it to state, they get to see another university. They hang out then at U of I, and that's how much. I mean, we have more land, but it's a larger campus as far as
it's a little bigger school,
bigger school, and that's a Big Ten, and they do real research, and you can see. That wasn't very nice. I didn't mean that. I'm sorry. But you can see their research being advertised. They've got monitors where they're updating all the time, and it's just very cool to see science happening at that level.
Yep, it's big.
No!
It's all good. Yeah.
Do you talk to them, Leanne, too, about teamwork? And because I know there's like a spirit award, right?
We won it.
Yeah.
Did you? Congratulations.
Did you win it? Yay. So how do you does that sort of kind of foster that as it goes? You talk about that specifically with the kids?
And that's another thing.
Let it happen.
Yeah, they see the other teams from year to year, and they're like, we're doing that next year, and we're doing that next year. And so this year they actually made big poster boards, and we left them at school, so they didn't get to use those. They got chalk, and they wrote all over the sidewalks outside, and they made thank you cards. I think that was the big one. They made thank you cards.
I got
for
one
all the
from one of
event
the middle
supervisors.
schools.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got one of the middle schools. I have it up in my office.
Yay. Excellent.
Cool.
Because all the event supervisors are volunteers. Nobody gets paid to do this except for maybe Dawn, but that's just her job, and that's just part of the. Yeah, comes with the territory.
Yeah. No, we were all here on a Saturday. They did give us pizza.
And that's
They
cool.
did feed us pizza and donuts, so
Yeah, and donuts. Yes.
yeah, I'm still in grad student mode. I'll do anything for free.
Yeah, especially peanuts and donut or pizza and donuts.
Yeah, it's pretty
Absolutely.
standard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Leanne, how do you prepare your students for something like astronomy, where it's, you have to know it all, like you said? Do you give your students guidance?
Now that's a hard.
And does that kind of freak them out a little bit, that they know it could be, almost anything? A question on.
Yes, the hard part's getting started. That's the hard part because
Yeah.
and different coaches I think see this differently. I kind of feel like this is a place for the kids to learn and explore what they're interested in. So I very much just give them the reins and say, go for it. I'm here if you have questions or need to find something, but I'm not teaching you this part. This is
Yeah.
for you to explore. And I think different people will handle that differently. That's just how kind of I do it. And so many times I'm like, okay, this is what I learned at the coaches clinic, and I tell them the bulletins that I picked up. Here are the instructions. Here are all the resources I have. Get started. And they just kind of run with it.
And they
Now,
go.
some of them need a little more guidance, like write it, do it. That's an event that you do on the scene. Like you can't really, you don't prepare. You just come and wing it. And in that case, you have one person who sees some strange object and they describe it as best as they can. And then their partner is going to then look at the description later and try to rebuild that object.
Yeah.
And so that's one that I can help with because I can just put stuff together and say, here. But some of them I can't help a whole lot. There are, I think there's a website, Sci It's the national website. You can go there to get practice tests for things like astronomy and anatomy and physiology,
Okay.
rocks and minerals. So there's resources there as well.
Okay,
But for
good.
the most part, I just make them do it themselves.
I love that. That's fantastic.
Yep, very good for them.
Wait, Sci Ollie? Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there we go. Oh, it's down.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. The website's down, or else I would share it.
Oh no. Okay, well, later.
We have a couple questions. Chris Rand is asking, do we have any does Science Olympiad partner with US First? Which I think is a robot type competition. I don't think there's any official partnerships. You can correct me if you've heard of anything.
I don't know of any, but
Okay.
I know.
But yeah, there's definitely robotics involved.
There's
in
always a
Science
robotic
Olympiad.
something. There's either a robotic arm. They rotate in groups of 3. Every 3 years, they rotate the events out. I think it's so that the same kids can't use the same device all 4 years.
Right.
So right now it's robotic arm. And the last one was more like a bot ball kind of thing, where you had to make a device that was a vehicle and it had to move balls around different obstacles and put them in a particular place. So that concept changes from year to year.
Okay.
But I don't know that we necessarily have partnerships. I'm sure any coach would welcome someone
Right.
to help with that stuff. The programming especially is very difficult. I think I don't understand it at all.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
I'm sure if there's somebody who wants
Computer
to help.
programming that goes
Yeah.
into building of the robot. How much? So some of these activities they build beforehand, like you were saying with the helicopter. How long do they have to do that? Is that like a few weeks, a few months, a few days?
And that depends on the coach. I usually
Okay.
try to get them started as soon as I come back from the coach's clinic. So
Okay.
I want to see what the new rules are and whether or not they've changed them from year to year. And then I give them the rules to start.
So it's not just the one day event. It's all the
It's months of prep.
Wow.
No money.
Yeah, with no.
Do you try to get your parents involved, Leanne? Do you have how involved do they get? If you do.
Usually if you have a parent being involved, it's one of those things where like, okay, little Johnny can't come to school and work on Saturdays or whatever, so how about all those friends come to our house and work in our garage? That's usually the extent of parental involvement. That's been my experience. But
I could see some parents. I could see some, and I'm thinking of myself in the future, wanting to like
yes, and you have to be very
play,
careful.
and you have to separate them a little.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not an issue for some coaches because they're very hands-on, whereas
Right.
I'm very hands-off, and
Right.
I don't really like all that involvement. I want the kids to figure it out.
Right.
Because for me, it's, and again, everyone's a little different. I just feel like it's all about the experience more so than anything else. So have fun, learn something, figure one thing out, and that makes me happy.
Yeah,
Awesome.
it's really great.
We have a question from Dave Appleton. What is the best way to get my 13-year-old niece interested in science? She hates it. Can you think of any ideas?
All science, I guess, would be.
I don't know. Yeah, because it depends.
That's really big.
It depends on. There's somewhere that something in her life intersects.
There's got to be
with science.
something that matters.
Yeah.
She's 13, so she's probably very apathetic in general. They all are. So you got to find something that
Or maybe
matters.
13.
I was gonna say that's pretty tough age.
Yeah.
Maybe sometimes with 13-year-olds it's their bodies, so that would make me think about biology, so that would
Yeah.
make me think about anatomy and physiology, and then I would think maybe a museum where they've got, I forget what it's called, how they have the bodies dissected and they're like
The bodies
the
exhibit.
bodies
Yeah,
exhibit,
yeah.
something like that might spark an interest.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of assumptions I just made about a kid I don't know.
Right. It depends. I mean, if she likes buildings, maybe, you know, some kind of, oh my gosh, I don't know where I just went with that. I don't know. I was thinking architecture, which is, you know, the same thing, but yeah.
Yeah.
And personally, of course, I think astronomy is a gateway science. You know, black holes and the night sky seem to get people interested.
I know.
But yeah, I think if you find a way that it intersects with current interests,
Make it personal. If there's anything at all that she's into, makeup, if it's makeup, then maybe
there's
look
lots
at
of chemistry in
material
there.
science, right?
Oh.
You can make your own chapstick, you can make your own lotion. So that's almost crafty. Sometimes that's appealing to the girls.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The girls.
The girls.
Do you see, Leanne, that after experience with Science Olympiad, some of your kids show more interest in science, like in the classroom, the more like, you know,
yeah, they're
formal
talking about it
type?
in class. Yeah, they'll
Yeah.
be like, oh, and we did this and we did that and this was so cool. And then before you know it, other kids are like, can we join? Is it too late? And you're like, no, come on over. And then your teams kind of build. And it definitely grows. It's a word of mouth thing. You start with your couple kids that are super into it, and then it just sort of grows.
Your maker kids.
Your maker kids. That's right.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
I'm just looking back, making sure I didn't miss any comments on this stuff. So, so Sci Ollie, this is one website you can go to. Do you know?
And that's the national site, right?
Right,
Yeah.
or
Okay.
what was the one I just had up? I just posted soinc.org, and that's also where I went when creating tests. You know, if you're faculty at a university and they're hosting this event, get involved because it is really cool to put together a test. Like I said, ours was more paper and pencil, which is a little more standard. But walking through the hallway that day, just seeing all the different apparatus.
Well, yeah.
That's
Last 2 years ago, I think they had to make musical instruments,
Mhm.
and that was very cool because you'd see everything from percussion instruments to like trombones made out of PVC pipe. I mean, that was a cool one. That'll come back again, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I think, was that where they had to actually take their instrument then and play some
Play a
music
song.
that they hadn't seen before, right? So,
Yeah, they had to play one song that they chose, a short one, and then they had to play some random music. So you had to have someone who was musically inclined. You couldn't
yeah,
just
that's really amazing.
kids.
Oh, that's excellent.
How
And
about
there's
that one?
lots of science in music, see, but not everyone would connect that.
And that one has a
Yeah,
paper pencil test also. So they have to know things like nodes, antinodes, all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
Wow,
Yeah,
very
Chris,
cool.
Chris Rand just commented about this on YouTube. 13-year-olds love music. Soundwaves make up notes and can lead to. I wouldn't go to string theory with that one, but definitely the science is all over that. And yeah, having absolutely zero musical background myself, I remember going through that in physics, and they're like, "Oh, it's just like octaves. It's just like." I'm like, that means nothing to me. So getting your musically interested students
Sure, yeah.
involved is
Mhm.
really a good idea. So yeah, but that's also to the question with a 13-year-old niece: get into music, get the music.
Yeah.
Just build instruments out of anything. See what you can make noise with. Even a straw, fill a straw with water and blow over the top
Yeah.
while the water decreases. All kinds of just silly tricks.
I do that with beer bottles, but that's not appropriate for 13-year-olds.
Not so much.
You get glass soda bottles. You can do that.
Go with that. Go with that. Yep.
Oh, I shouldn't really be allowed to teach children. Trying to think of what other any other interesting experiences you could share. Stuff that your students build that really surprised you.
1 year, Goldberg devices was there. They didn't call it Goldberg device. They called it something else. Mission Possible. That's what they called it. And they had to build a Goldberg device. And we had one group of students, this is when I was at West, who did extraordinarily well. And they got to go to state. And the judge, the supervisor there at state, commented on how amazing it was and how well it was run. And that student then put it, he was going to go to U of I anyway. He was a senior. He had kind of written on his application, I did this Science Olympiad thing. I talked to the coach. And the supervisor remembered him when they were going through his
Wow.
application. So it was kind of cool that they had that overlap. I like to think that helped him get into U of I. He actually went on a huge scholarship. And I don't know that he paid anything his freshman year.
Wow.
He's now a junior. So, and I've lost track because that was West and now I'm at East, but he did really well. We also had a student who did Olympiad all 4 years, and she's gone on to MIT,
Cool.
which I think is very cool because we're Facebook friends, and she's always showing me the cool stuff they're doing on campus.
Gosh.
Very neat.
Yeah, MIT students, you guys scare me, but you're awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've visited there.
Good.
Cool, very cool.
Well, how about any, I don't want to say catastrophes, but any things gone wrong or any?
Anytime you build something, pre-build.
Right, because I'm thinking all these, big complicated devices.
Well,
And
we take a bus here from our campus, which is about 45 minutes away, and buses aren't necessarily smooth, and so something is going to break, and you just hope that you brought something to fix whatever break, and you don't know what to anticipate, so you're bringing hot glue guns, you're bringing duct tape, you're bringing screwdrivers and screws, and you just don't know what you're going to need.
Your whole toolbox.
Fall apart. We've had things work perfectly at school, and you get here and nothing. You got nothing.
Yeah.
A bridge one time, it shattered. I don't know what happened between there and here, but it just nothing. So then you can't compete, which is heartbreaking.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's one event out of however many you have that day, so you can still. So we talked about ways that teachers who are interested can get involved. Are there ways that if you're a parent of a student or a student watching, and your school doesn't do that, is there a way to?
Sure. So that's two different things. If a parent is involved, you can have parents as coaches. Parents are allowed to coach, and that can happen. You just got to go to the website. It costs $150. Might be up a little bit now. It's about $150 per team. So we have a varsity and a JV team, so we usually drop about $300 on it. But you have to have cash to register, and that buys you entrance into your regional as well as the coach's manual. And then once the parents get the coach's manual, then you can do whatever you want to prepare. Again, the coaches clinic is in October. I would suggest that to anyone starting. Students who want to get involved, I would hit the principal and I would get your parents involved, and then I would actually start talking to the school board, because the school boards are the people who have all the power. Yeah. So if you get the school board interested and on board, if you just go to a meeting and say, hey, I heard about this group and blah, 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 I would like to be a part of it, they will push to get a teacher to sponsor it. That's kind of how you make things happen in school.
Very cool. Who to talk to. Good. Now, can homeschoolers also do this, Leanne? Do you know?
Yeah, the hard thing about homeschooling is you want to have a large enough group that you have at least 15 kids. I think that would be the hardest part about homeschoolers, especially middle school. This would be very cool. But you want to be a part of a homeschooling group, and many times they're homeschoolers already are.
Right.
But the hard part would be to find your 15.
Okay.
You can compete with less than 15. It just becomes very difficult because you'll end up having kids doing 4 and 5 events, and it's very difficult to be an expert in 4 or 5 things.
Yeah.
And then they're going all day. They're just one event after another, and they're exhausted.
I had some kids running late to my astronomy test. One particular, just whatever had happened. Oh no, I'm frozen. Don't drop.
Uh-oh.
Georgia, you can hear me? Okay.
Fine to me. Oh, I was going to say.
Okay. I thought we were going to lose again.
Woo.
Yeah, we had students, I don't know what happened, some scheduling class, they just ran in there, out of breath. I was like, okay, stop. Take a breath. I'm not giving you this test till you take a breath. I will give you extra time. Yeah. So that...
When we had some events over in a different building, the biotech building, so they had to catch a train or trolley, whatever.
Yeah, they had to catch
to go somewhere
over.
And that runs every 15 minutes. So that's something you have to be conscious of, too, when you're scheduling the kids in different events. Yeah. You hope that you didn't put them on polar ends of the campus.
Right. Sometimes you don't even know that until you get here, probably. Yeah.
So you wing it.
But it's sounding more and more, so I only got to see one little part of it, sounding more and more like Olympiad is the right term for this.
It's the absolute right term.
You're getting really good at some subset of events. You have a team that's doing it, and you're just pushing yourself that day, pushing yourself to the limit. But there's training that goes up to it as well.
It's a perfect word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Aviva. Hi, Aviva. She is puts together a lot of our 365 Days of Astronomy content. So Aviva asks if are there materials for beginners for Science Olympiads, more hands-on? So she is in Indonesia, and they have Science Olympiads with more advanced astrophysics. So she's wondering what kind of level So the level of the Science Olympiads here is more middle school, high school. So I wouldn't call it advanced astrophysics. And I would say go to the website for the material.
Yeah, they've got tests. I mean, for astronomy, it's just tests that
Right.
you would use. So they have sample tests on the website that you can download from previous years as well. So if you have them from like North Carolina's regional, Illinois will have a regional up there. I think Pennsylvania has regionals up there, and then you'll get the national test too. And it usually goes back 4 or 5 years. So you have a pool of tests.
Okay, so there's a pool of tests there on the website. That's the one Aviva, I promise I will post it on the YouTube link, the YouTube description as soon as we get done. So that's the level of Science Olympiad here in the U.S. If you were looking for that kind of material to bring in Indonesia, I don't know what level that you have there. And I just wanted to mention a comment from Tree Lobsters. Hi, we heart you. There's also a difference between hating science and hating science class, and it sounds like.
Agreed.
Yeah, do you find students that don't like the class as much that really get into this?
Yeah, my team this year was heavy in juniors, and I had 4 juniors who actually are not in a science class at all this year.
Oh, this is their science for the year.
So, so they don't love science. They don't love science class, but they definitely like to do the thinking and the outside of the box and the activities. So these 4 particular students, I've got 2 of them who took industrial arts classes this year. They fulfilled their graduation requirements. And then another 2 who have taken a more musical route. They're doing art and music instead. So I did have 4 students who are not in any kind of science and still really enjoy Olympiad and did well.
Awesome. Yeah, and the goal isn't necessarily to turn everyone into a scientist, but to get that scientific process.
Yeah, just have an outlet to do something that you wouldn't do on your own. That's science-oriented and kind of fun. And to compete.
Yeah,
to push yourself to do better than the next guy.
Yeah, I think the great thing about it is you are competing, but as a team. I think the team aspect is really, really nice. So it's just so much, it's more fun, just so much more fun.
Yeah. We have another question from Lourdes asking if there's a version of Science Olympiad that could be done via internet or social media or internationally. And I don't know of anything.
Wow.
Right. This particular group is within the U.S. Don't know of any international. I don't know again if you've heard of anything on the international level. You said there's a national competition.
There's a national competition. I haven't heard anything internationally. Like for example, Goldberg I know is international. I don't think Olympiad is. I don't think it would be that difficult to make the testing portion international.
Right.
I think that's something you could do like this. You could probably even do things like rocks and minerals this way. Hold it up. Do a little scratch test. What is this? I think it's possible.
Yeah.
I don't know that anybody's thought about it.
Yeah. We'll have to look into that because I have not heard of that.
I've never heard of anything like that.
It might make, judging things on the via internet. Obviously, we have this wonderful Google Hangout platform, but judging things not in person is definitely difficult. But if you had judges, locally that could transmit the results. That would be another way of doing it. I'll have to look into that, and if I find anything, again, I'll add it to the show notes, either on the Google event page or on the YouTube description. So we'll try.
So at the end of the Olympiad, there's a big awards assembly and everything, and it's all big fun and excitement. And then do you do anything with your students when they all get back? Maybe it's the next day. Do you kind of debrief and process through things? What went wrong, what went great, what could have gone better, or just have a party or kind of bring things to close?
That's exactly what we do. We have one more meeting, and I usually provide the food for that one. There's a Taco Bell across the street from our school, so I go and get a bunch of tacos.
Cool.
And I ask them what they think went well, and I ask them if they think they did their best. And then I ask them what changes we should implement for next year. And every year it's consistent. We should have used our time wiser. We shouldn't have messed around so much. Every year it's the same.
Yeah, really? Okay.
Good ones. I had one student say at the very beginning, once we get our events, we need to write down personal goals. My goal is to be at this point on this day, this point at this day. He said, and everybody needs to have their own personal goals. And I said, I like that. So that was a new suggestion for this year. I really like that one.
They're learning project management.
Yes.
Right.
Of themselves.
Yeah.
And so I really liked that one. Because normally they're like, well, I need you to tell me, and I need you to tell me. And I say, okay, that's what you need. That's what I'll do. And that clearly wasn't working this year. So I thought it was nice that they came up with that solution to make their own kind of itinerary of events that they need to accomplish. So that was what came out of this year, which I thought was really cool.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
I like that.
Learning more than just science with
Good practical solution to a problem.
I think this year we had lots of strong personalities, and so we had a hard time with our build events. People just agreeing on what to build and how to build. So this year, I think part of our team's issue was just too many chiefs and not enough Indians, and that can be difficult, especially when you're dealing with very smart people. And these kids tend to be intelligent; they're science oriented. So many times they all think they have the best idea, and it's difficult to give them a chance to try everything and then pick what works the best for everyone.
Yeah.
That was hard this year.
Yeah. Do you ever have to step in or feel, I know you say you're kind of hands off and you want to let them go do what they do, but when you get some personality issues like that, do you ever feel like you have to, come in and help straighten things out a little bit?
Yeah, I had students this year wanting to switch teams, and I said, this is not, I don't want to work with this partner, I want to work with this one. And I was like, all right, that's fine. This is varsity, this is JV. If you want to not work with this person, then you can go to JV. And they're like, well, it's not that important to me. So, given the choice to compete with a varsity team or JV team, they tend to get along. So that's basically all I had to do this year, but they still were at each other, just a little bit.
Well, it's not that much different from a sports team in that respect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or even a workplace where you're trying to accomplish goals for a job, for money. You still have to get along and find a way to yield and to hold true to what you believe is appropriate, but still hear other people. That's very difficult for especially high school students.
Oh, yeah.
Who have been the smartest kid in their class their whole life, and all of a sudden here's another smart kid.
Yeah.
Just as smart as they are. And it's an interesting situation to watch them work it out.
Yep, that's good. But it's preparing them for work. It's preparing them for college, where that happens all the time. And so wow, so Olympiad, good for all kinds of things.
Yeah, this year we had four builders who were at each other, and then all of a sudden at the end they all pulled it out. All their stuff did really well. They ended up getting first and seconds on their build events. They did quite well. It was all done. They're like, oh man, it's over. I can't believe it's over. And at that same time, we got invited to go do this Rube Goldberg thing. So I almost think that being a part of Science Olympiad and them hearing that we were building got us invited to this other build event. So then they got to build a whole new thing. So it kind of perpetuates other activities too, opens doors for them.
Yeah.
For other things.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this sounds like if you're watching and want to get involved, like you said before, talk to your principal, your parents, your school board, your teachers. Because this sounds like a really good experience that I'm kind of feeling like, oh, I wish I had this experience.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Cool.
It's exhausting, but it's fun.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine.
It is worth it.
Good. Cool.
All right.
I will take any last questions on the YouTube and the Google Plus and the Twitter if you guys have any. But if you have any closing thoughts you'd like to leave us with about Science Olympiad, anything else we didn't cover that you wanted to talk about?
Gosh, just do science. Do something. It's always better than a video game. Just doing is better.
Doing is good.
I really think that. I really feel that way.
Yeah.
Unless there's video game programming as an event, then it's okay.
And still, I'm not sure about that one. We might DQ that event.
Cool. All right, well, thank you, Leanne, so much for coming and talking about this and giving us resources for people who are interested in getting involved in Science Olympiad. And I see you've got your
we were competing in group today, so I had to.
Oh, you're actually competing. Oh, that's right. How did that go today? I forgot.
Not so good.
Oh.
They didn't do awesome, but they did okay. So we competed in the Rube Goldberg competition today. It gave my builders a taste for it, and they just want to keep building. And now they're already thinking what they're going to do next year.
Oh, that's cool.
So
that's really cool. Yeah, I forgot you said that in your emails that you had a competition today. So.
Yeah, from one to the other. But now I'm done. I'm done until next season.
Cool. And you said the coaches workshop for Illinois is in October.
Yeah, right around Halloween time.
Okay, so other states you're gonna have to check your schedules as well to get involved for next year, I think.
And is that a weekend, Leanne, or a 1 day, a 2 day for that coaches workshop?
You can choose. It goes Friday to Saturday, and if you want, you can just do the Saturday, or you can do the Friday and Saturday. And so we take several coaches, we team up with other schools, and we try to cover every event. And we do Friday and Saturday, and I think it's totally worth it to do both days and hit as many events as you can.
Yeah. All right.
Excellent.
Awesome. Yeah, well, thank you so much, Leanne. It was so good to talk to you.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for watching and commenting and asking questions. Again, I will I will post whatever links I can on the event page and on the YouTube video description, so you guys can check that out later. For our hangouts tomorrow, we have the Planetary Society at noon Pacific. That Emily Lakdawala just sent around. I think it's about curiosity. I just saw the event come up a little while ago. And then Friday, we are going to attempt to broadcast the Weekly Space Hangout from South by Southwest in Austin, Texas. We'll be part of the big NASA tent extravaganza. I'm actually getting on a plane at 6 a.m. To get down there in time for that. We should have the bandwidth to broadcast, but if there's a glitch, somebody off-site will host the hangout for us. But it'll be me, Pamela Gay, Fraser Kane, and Scott Lewis in Austin. And
you get the big telescope?
Yes, they have the tennis court-sized James Webb Space Telescope. You can't miss it. It's near the Long Performing Arts Center. So if you're coming to Austin for the Gaming Expo, come see us there outside the Long Performance Center. There's the JWST model and the NASA tent. All free. All of our NASA stuff is going to be free. And like I said, we'll broadcast the Weekly Space Hangout from the tent or wherever we're set.
Wherever.
We're going to figure that out tomorrow. So yeah, get your Weekly Space News with us. That's at noon Pacific on Friday. And then the virtual star party is usually on Sunday, but since we're broadcasting again from Austin, it'll depend on the weather. So keep sorry, lost my train of thought looking at the comments. So keep following CosmoQuest.
Right, stay tuned.
Yeah, stay tuned for that information. Sorry, I totally got distracted.
No, I know.
Comment about Camilla, and I don't have my Camilla here. Sorry, Camilla.
Oh,
no. Hopefully Camilla will be at South by Southwest as well. So we will invite Camilla to the Weekly Space Hangout. This is your invite, Camilla. The rubber chicken. Please come to our Weekly Space Hangout. We would love to have you. So that's what we got for this week. Thank you so much. Thank you, Leanne. And we'll see you guys next week.
Okay, great. Bye-bye.
Let me grab the bag here. So there's a couple different websites you can get them from. You just type in UV beads, and you'll get these UV sensitive beads from different science companies. So here's a bag of like 3,000 assorted beads. So these beads, they show up and they look light in color under normal visible light conditions. Now, if you have access to outside, which I don't in my basement office, the best thing to do, of course, is to put it in sunlight to see how it changes. But you can also use different UV lamps to actually change the color of these beads to make them react. So what's actually going on is a little chemical reaction in the plastic itself that makes the beads change color. And so what I have with me that you can't see because it's off screen, I have a UV lamp. It's a really short wavelength UV lamp. Probably not the cheapest or safest thing to be using. They use it for I think identifying fluorescent minerals. But you can buy UV flashlights in like the 365 nanometer range that will make these beads react. And what happens, let me show you the result. I've been holding it under the lamp. And this is what happens to the beads when they're held under UV light. Can you see that? Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Learning Space. My name is Nicole Gugliucci from CosmoQuest. I am joined by our guest tonight, actually in-house in the room with me. This is Leanne Kniepkamp and Georgia Bracey.
Hello.
Hi everyone. So today we're going to be talking about Science Olympiad and what that is, if you're a teacher, how do you get your students involved, some of the things you've experienced as a coach for Olympiad. And then we've also got, I actually prepared a demo of the week.
We have a demo this week.
I know.
Thank you, Nicole.
Yay.
Glad you could do it.
Yay for the last minute. So one of my favorite things to talk about, as any of you who've watched any of our Hangouts, is radio astronomy and the fact that it is looking at the universe with invisible light. So it's a type of light that our eyes can't see, and it lets us see things that are different processes happening in the universe. And there's a couple of different demos that I like to do with respect to this invisible light thing that I call it. You could, if you have the technology and the money, you can get an infrared thermal imaging camera. That's really fun to play with. you build a little Faraday cage and put it around your cell phone and see what it does, and maybe we'll do that on a future week. But there are also these really cool beads, these plastic beads that respond to ultraviolet light. Georgia?
Oh, yeah, that looks lovely.
And you notice half the beads don't seem to have reacted.
Nope. What's wrong with them?
What's wrong with them? So I like to do what is wrong with them. Nothing's wrong with the beads, but what you don't see.
Don't blame the beads. I said don't blame the beads. Okay.
Don't blame the beads.
What's
I've
going on?
a layer of sunscreen to this half of the bag. And so you can use these beads as ultraviolet light sensors. You can and then test the efficacy of different sunscreens. So what I've actually done here is crossed off the SPF. You see my face? Crossed off the SPF of the sunscreen, and what I do is I'll randomly mix these up and cover the label, or put them in unlabeled bottles, or have them coated so that I know what's in them. And you can demonstrate what a blinded experiment looks like with kids. And you give them these bottles with these codes on them and say, figure out, put them in order of strongest or least strong to strongest. And you actually get, from the several times I've done this, you actually get pretty good results. You get your I'll throw in hand lotion that has no SPF whatsoever, just to, make things interesting. And they'll actually move up the chain, and once you get to something like, in this case, that may work as well. So there's a specific wavelength range. Like I tried a black light first, and I think the wavelength of this is too long. It was taking quite a long time to change the beads, so you have to try it out before you actually use it. Sunlight is obviously just the best if you can go outside, especially if you're doing a demo with sunscreen, because your kids will end up covered in sunscreen, and that's not such a bad thing to do outside. So yeah. Okay, so that's our demo of the week, UV beads, and I'll be sticking in some more invisible light demos in later weeks. Georgia, do you want to give us the Globe at Night reminder?
Okay, so a couple of weeks ago, you guys, if you were watching, we had Connie Walker on. She runs the Globe at Night Citizen Science project, and that's a great project to use with your students or family. And it takes place at certain times throughout the year, and it has started up again. March 3rd is the beginning of the next round of observing times for Globe at Night. So if you want to get out there and observe your night sky, see how dark or light it is at night, this is the time to do it. It's citizen science, so people are actually studying the effect.
It did a really good job of covering up those beads. So those beads, like I said, they're pretty cheap to buy. They're good UV light sensors. And let me turn my UV light off before I give us all skin cancer. You can it's a great little activity to do with middle school or with elementary school kids before Mother's Day, because you can use these beads and make jewelry out of them, and then they make jewelry for Mother's Day. We did that totally serendipitously one year, and they loved it.
Cool. And science jewelry.
Yeah, all the moms came to our observing night with these, like plastic beads on earrings and bracelets, and it was like, oh yeah, that's our fault. You can have them test different things like the some of your car windows, see which of the car windows, the windshield or the side windows, have UV coating on them.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, so
good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I've heard of teachers using those beads in a lot of ways like that to show how you can set up an experiment of many different types just with these beads, but I've never been able to try it myself, so thanks for grabbing those and showing that today, because I always wanted to see how that looked.
Yeah. We have a comment from Lourdes. Hello. He says you can go to your nearest beauty salon and borrow the UV lamp that they use for collecting nails.